Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's well. This is a Tuesday afternoon, but it feels like it's the middle of the week. Hi, Jackie. How are you?
Good evening, Dr. Miles. How are you? I'm
Hey,
well.
I am great. I am great. You know, each week come on, I'm always with apprehension and anxiety, hoping that you get on. All right. So you gotta
So
start.
far, so good.
You gotta start reassuring me that you're gonna be here. I mean, I know you're gonna be here, but it's that internet service. All right. Hello, Al Miller. How y'all doing down there? It's good seeing you again. You guys are faithful followers. I really appreciate that. My name is Dr. Willie Miles. I am the president of Dr. Willie Miles Children's Foundation, located in Atlanta, Georgia. And Jackie's my co-host. Jackie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Hampton Clemens, CEO of Valley of the Giants and a principal here in South Florida.
Hey, y'all, don't talk about us. We should have figured this thing out by now with this Facebook thing. So you can see Jackie. I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to leave it alone. And I said one day on this
Next season. Next season.
we're going to figure it out. But Jackie, how is the weather in South Florida?
You know, Dr. Miles, again, it's one of the reasons people live in South Florida. The weather is absolutely beautiful. I did notice, however, on my way to this broadcast, watching the news, that we have some very unfortunate weather going through the South and planning to hit my hometown of Jackson, Mississippi. In fact, they were broadcasting from there. How are things in Atlanta?
Hey, listen, it's like the schizophrenic weather. It is, to me, cold in the morning, and it gets like it's 70 degrees in the evening. But yeah, people come here for the four seasons. So
It's true.
it feels great here, and it's good just to be alive. So again, I want to welcome each of you all to our broadcast this week. And you guys are so faithful to us. I just don't know how to act. I just, I almost feel like we have our own show going on, Jackie, with
We absolutely do.
on live TV. I'm going to speak that into existence.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Our topic this week, we've had some great topics last month. So we've always had great topics, but our audience seems to really gravitate toward, again, things that are more culturally based, that are more things that families really deal with, and they're trying to figure out what to do with children. They're trying to figure out what to do with their families. And Jackie, I think one way we're going to actually host one of these programs that deals with how to keep couples together. Now, you said, what does that have to do with children?
It has everything to do with children. I mean, if families are intact, it has a major impact on children. And Dr. Miles, I wanted to add to what you were saying. We are also having the conversations that aren't really being held and really being had elsewhere. So we really do try to provide a service that's not already being provided.
Think about it also. And when we're on with y'all, you feel like family. So that's why we do it so well, I think. I'm not boasting or anything, but we're very comfortable with this. And we know that you all are very comfortable with us. So, Jackie, I want to give a shout out to our cousin in Mississippi. I see B is on. We call her B. She's on every week with us. And I'm happy to see that Faithful Father is joining us. I'm going to actually have...
Hi, Faithful Father.
I'm going to actually have Faithful Father on as one of our guests. He was on last year, and our followers loved him. So we're going to bring him back on.
Some great information, a fantastic resource.
I hope I got this right. I think Faithful Father is the, I think, like the foster care adoptions manager for the state of Georgia.
Oh.
So he does a lot of great work, and his family's just a wonderful, adorable family, and he's sort of like the epitome of manhood and fatherhood. So sort of giving him a shout out there. I also want to thank my friend from Sierra Leone who's on. He is an artist. His name is Grovius Black, and he just got about 6 awards in Sierra Leone in the last month. So
wow, congratulations.
Yeah, I want to thank him for being on. And Jackie, in Sierra Leone, it's probably midnight there. Right?
That's his dedication, being up at midnight to participate in the broadcast.
Hey, I feel like this is the Emmys. No, I don't. All right. But since we brought the Emmys up.
Do you mean the Academy Awards?
Close enough. Close enough. We talk about this just a little, because we're talking about tonight Why are our teens so disrespectful? So this is sort of a good segue.
Amen. It
I'm,
absolutely is. And it definitely will come out. It's a question a lot of people are asking, I believe. Sometimes we say that it's asked every generation, but looking forward to hearing from our audience. I do think this generation, I think disrespect is kind of part of the culture. And a lot of times, and I think we're going to see in the research, it's not accidental. It's not what they don't know. It's intentional and entitled.
well, we're going to go back to what I was talking about, the Emmys or the Grammys, whatever it's called, with Will Smith and
Chris Rock.
Chris
Yes.
Rock.
And of course, Will's
Yeah.
wife, Jada. Yes.
And the thing about it is so interesting to me is, that's violence.
And the other part that I have found interesting is the fact, I should say, that people are very committed to their sides. And I have had conversations with people who felt strongly about both sides. There were people who felt strongly that Chris Rock was wrong. There are people who felt strongly that Will Smith was wrong. And so very passionate views on this.
I'm going to throw it out from my perspective, from a clinical perspective. And I tell kids all the time, I don't care what anybody says about you. It does not justify you hitting them. I don't care what anybody ever said, because that'd be the case. We'd be a fighting society or something.
We'd be a fight.
So we can't control what people say, but we can control what we do. And from a clinical perspective, it was just really out of order. It was violent, and it was an assault. And so,
plain as day. I mean, there's just no way to argue it.
Right.
It was an assault. To what you were saying, we grew up with sticks and stones may break my bones. But to violently attack a person, not just do so, but in front of an international audience, on a stage, in the middle of a performance, really just indescribable. Honestly, Dr. Miles, I felt, for me, it looked like he was having a mental breakdown, like something occurred.
I'm not sure because, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but at the end of the day, I'm just concerned that was a very bad example for children, a very bad example. So in other words, somebody says something to you, it's okay to shoot them. And that's what's happening right now. That's what's happening right. It's okay
to. That's why we're saying it goes to the heart of our conversation tonight.
Yeah.
Why are teens so disrespectful? And a lot of this is because it's what they're seeing.
Yeah. All right, let's get into this topic then. Let's get into this topic. My son Leon is on, so I gotta say hi to him. Hey Leon, I hope things are going good with you down there in Miami. I do want to say, Jackie, that this topic is one that resonates with all of us, and we all have had children. And Jackie, as we cover this conversation tonight and with our audience, let's make sure we cover generations. Because my question is, are kids really disrespectful, or is it that we're just so sensitive? Now, I'm throwing that out.
Listen, that came up in the conversations about Will Smith and Chris. I heard some comments that said, no, this generation is just soft and everything hurts their feelings. Right. So a legitimate point to make. It's very legitimate, and let's see what our audience thinks and what the research is telling us.
But at the end of the day, when you start looking at the generations, and you work in education, I work in the clinical field, and many of our followers on both Instagram and on Facebook are working in the field of social work. They are foster parents, and I'm sure they too have had this question: why are these kids so angry? And Jackie, we're very quick to say because they're parents, but there are some other underlying issues. You want to jump into it, Jackie?
I think there are quite a few issues, Dr. Miles. We do have to remember, and this has been, standard with instruction and teenagers for quite some time, that they're highly influenced by their peers. And what, we want to see added to this conversation is the impact of social media. But this pain can come from a lot of places. Parents, of course, do have an impact, but society has an impact. Children are seeing what we're seeing as adults, okay? So, the research is saying these kids are trying to disconnect from and repress the incredibly painful and intolerable emotions that inevitably occur as a result of toxic childhoods. Okay.
Let's talk about what toxic childhood is. And in most of our programs, we've always talked about when the child's personality is set, and it's set by age 3.
Mm-hmm.
And so the child has witnessed so much toxicity in some of the homes. In some of the homes, there's alcoholism, there's drug addiction, there's dysfunction as to where we're going to live, where the lights are going to be on, whether or not we have food, and it goes on.
And
So
things as simple, toxic also includes neglect.
yeah.
Not being, well kept and cared for. Those things I think start to set in early on.
Well, the thing about it is that children, not only just children, but humans want to feel safe and they want to feel secure.
Mm-hmm.
And the issues that if you can't have the child feeling safe, it creates other issues. If he doesn't feel secure, it creates other issues. And most certainly, if they don't feel love, it creates other issues. Now, you may not see those, Jackie, manifest in those early years.
Exactly.
But as the child begins to get older, guess what? He becomes more stoic, more.
Because at that age, they're more able to express,
Mm-hmm.
what they're feeling. And in other words, what they're feeling is more likely to show on the outside.
Right.
They are being exposed to other people. And so they have more means of expressing it as they get older.
But the other thing, too, I think that our children witness us as grown folk doing stuff. And so part of this anger is, they're moving into their grownness. So therefore, they sort of mimic some of the behaviors that they have seen. But I think we can conclude, that all behaviors are learned. So that's the first thing.
Right.
All
All behaviors are learned.
right. So our children are so angry because, they're in so much pain. And people say, Jackie, what do you mean pain? They ain't paying no bills. That's pain.
Right. We know what pain is. Pain in the pocket. Right. But Dr. Miles, again, you were talking about what toxic is. Toxic is anything that's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, children are in pain, and I think it's important. Children can have pain. They can be dealing with very serious issues. And I think it is very important for the adult community to recognize that and not think, you ain't paying no bills. What pain are you talking about? Because they're in pain within their environments and what they're wanting and feeling and seeing and within their social circles, not feeling, as you said, loved, accepted, and equal. Okay.
You know what's so interesting, Jackie? When I take a look at where our kids are today and when I was growing up, and I thought it was bad back then, I prefer to be raised back then because I didn't have a lot to contend with. You had peer stuff, but it wasn't bad because.
How could it be, Dr. Miles? How could it be as bad as something you may do
Mm-hmm.
being blasted over social media? We had no fear of that. If you didn't live on our street and you weren't there, all you could do was hear about it. You definitely couldn't see it. Okay? So how far could it go? Right? So their fear and their concerns are very real because they can do something at any moment that could travel the world in seconds.
Right. But Jackie, what's so interesting about this, though, is that I would hate to be a child in this modern world because it's very easy to feel unprotected. Like stuff goes on Instagram and social media. Parents not even aware of it. The child has to fight that battle themselves. And
every day at school, we had a case here recently where a student at a high school was being bullied. They were calling this child at home. They were doing all sorts of things. The parents did attempt to speak to the school. From what the report said, they were told to kind of tough it out. And they ended up moving the child from the school. So, their lives are very real. Again, social media plays a role in a way that it never has before, right? Not even with the 20-something-year-olds. did they have the access, the exposure that is there today? Okay, post-COVID, because honestly, Dr. Miles, I feel like we got to a point where everything is on social media. And if
Yeah.
you're not on social media, you need to be depressed about that.
Right.
If you're not on there, so not only do you need to be on there, you need to be on there perfect.
But check it. But not only if you're on there, but you gotta have a certain number of likes, a certain number of
And
followers.
you must have a certain number of likes or followers, or your entire day is thrown off. And we know that this is also affecting adults. So again, when we talk about where the teens getting it from, it's a learned behavior. They are seeing this.
Let's read some of our comments. Faithful Father said, "Good point, Dr. J." The Marsh family said, "Social media, society, television, movies, and games is part of this. Is part of this. Why the kids are so angry." Jackie, you read some. Faithful Father says, "We taught our children how to mask it by pretending the children don't matter."
Yeah,
Jackie?
I thought that was a very important one because again, you know, we said this jokingly, but a lot of people say it seriously. What's your problem? What do you have to feel bad about? You don't pay any bills. And so honestly, when those kind of things are said, it's like you're further demeaning their existence. Not only am I not relevant to any of my friends and don't matter, but you're telling me I don't matter because I don't pay bills. I'm a child.
Think about this, though. Think about this for a second. I'm dealing with all those stuff that is external. I ain't even much got to my internal stuff yet, which is puberty.
Right. And trying to figure that out, you know. We did have the luxury of just dealing with puberty, you know, getting that pimple right there in the middle of your head at the beginning of the month.
Well, you know, that's one of the external, but yeah, and I hear you. I'm even talking about, you know, the more inward stuff and checking it. And I deal with these kids who, you know, no one has talked to them about sex. They are doing things that their body's not sure what they're doing. It is a very complex time for them. So check this out. I just got to deal with school now and the stuff that go on there. I ain't got to just watch Facebook every day and Instagram and all the other 10 we've not mentioned.
Yeah. And you know, another part of that, as the body changes and you're having, you know, questions about sex, is hygiene. Something hugely overlooked often by the adults in a child's life. They don't teach them how to care for themselves. Again, increasing social anxiety and all manner of things, creating a toxic environment for the child.
Janae says, "We hurt our children with our lifestyle. They hurt because they witness us hurting." I love it.
Very real. Very real.
And
you, I think we'd be surprised, Dr. Miles, how many parents don't realize that if you're sitting around depressed or there's anything wrong with you, first of all, your child is the first one to know, and then that they hurt with you.
Let's just take a little bit further. Even when your children witness someone hurting you, it creates anger. So, you know, we were talking about why are our kids so angry? And so the comments are, not tonight, because we have a smart group here. They're not saying what they angry about. They're not paying any bills. Because I think I prefer to pay bills than to deal with all this stuff out there. Our children have a lot.
I choose the bills.
I'll choose the bills. Because, you know, not knowing when you're going to be jumped at school because this group doesn't like you. And then, and according to what city you're in, Jackie, you know, the schools have different gangs, and you got gun violence, and you have threats being made at the school. You know,
or you know, you're not wearing clean clothes because none of the adults, you know, wash the clothes, and you don't have the means to do it yourself, and yet you're being bullied for these things every single day. I mean, there's so many things, and again, in case the audience doesn't know, typically Dr. Miles and I are speaking from real experiences. You know, I know that I've gone and bought clothing for children at school and asked them to change because their clothing was not clean, and I knew it was affecting their peers and therefore affecting them. And yet, you know, living with a mother and a father that they see every day who probably wouldn't consider that neglect.
Because, and this, because of the lens they're looking through. Because when they were raised, guess what? It wasn't an issue.
No one did it for them.
Now we hear some people saying, well, oh, guess what? They're grown people now. Well, children grow up to be sometimes products of their environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
And adults are just older versions of their younger selves,
So,
especially when issues are not addressed.
So our topic is, why are our kids so angry? But let's give some
So
generational stuff.
disrespectful.
Yes, for instance, you know, what we consider disrespectful, the kids thing is just part of today's look. It's part of today's look. I
Look,
didn't.
conversation, dialogue, behavior, swag,
Mhm.
it's all part of it. Again, gets back to, where are they learning this? Why is that part of it? Why is it so commonplace?
Well,
such that a lot of children pick it up without even questioning, is this good, bad, right, or wrong? It's just what's there.
well, I've always said, and I'm going to keep saying until the Lord takes me on home, is that we always trying to raise children when they're 12 years old.
That was good. Trying to raise them at 12. Good luck with that.
Well, you're at midstream then. That's like trying to get into the game at halftime. I'm saying it starts much earlier. It starts prior to the baby being born. It has to be consistent. So these behaviors these kids are getting, I don't know where you got it from, but guess what? Some of them got it from you because of your leniency. Some got it from you because you love them so much you gave them no structure, because you say that that's what I had when I was growing up. So I don't want my child to have that. And then you look at what you got.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it is so important for us to realize that if you're not starting the relationship with your teens, if you're not addressing who they are, like we said, from birth to 3, from 3 to 6, if you're not doing it then, I mean, late to the party at 12 is an understatement. Like,
Yeah.
the party's over. Okay,
Yeah.
their minds are set. They have been shaped. Think about it. For 12 years, those minds have been shaped, with or without you, because they haven't been sitting around dormant for 12 years waiting on you to say, hey, let's go get some ice cream.
Right.
No, they have been absorbing. Children absorb from day one.
Mm-hmm.
They absorb when they're looking at you on day one. The fact that they cannot express what they're absorbing, as Dr. Miles said, or show you outwardly, from the moment your child comes out and you hold them and they look up at you, they start to absorb. They're looking at your face and those expressions. They know you better than you know yourself. And Dr. Miles, I'm hanging out here for a minute because I think it is so important on this topic. Why are teens so disrespectful? Because if you didn't have input into that between 0 and 3 and 3 to 6, I mean, they are a reflection of society. And let's face it, there's a lot of disrespect in society.
It's kind of interesting that sometimes, because of our circumstances, many people are working, and we have to allow sometimes, our mom and them to keep the kids while we are at work and that kind of stuff. But you're going to find that grandparents are usually a little bit more lenient with children. A little bit more lenient. We think more restrictive, but they're a little bit more lenient. They let them get away with a whole lot more because they are older now, the grandparents, and they're more tolerant of stuff. So my only point is that parents, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to provide for our children. We have a responsibility to set the course for them, and we have a responsibility to set those values in. Now, the question is, when you talk about being disrespectful, we're talking about kids being in pain. So, I'm not sure if y'all work with kids who are in the juvenile system, and they usually come in that system so angry, and it takes forever to get them calmed. And what gets them calmed, ready, is caring.
Mm.
What?
And again, the general society would say by that age, they quote unquote don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But the point, Dr. Miles, that I hear you making is that raising your children is a full-time, lifetime thing that starts early.
Well, our favorite word is, it has to be intentional. I mean, people, this session tonight is not really on, oh, parents, you got to do, because we beat that in the ground. I really want to talk about, what's happening with our kids' minds, and why are they so expressive, and why they're so explosive. You know, we have more children and that are, Jackie, 10 years old that are being diagnosed with intermittent explosive disorder, which simply means that the kid will go off on anything. And when he goes off, it's explosive. You can't calm them down. They have these fits, and it is 10 times a tantrum.
And I think we need to see that as an eruption of probably years of repressed and unexpressed trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that finally that child, probably not even by choice, but more or naturally, it's just coming out. It has swelled up, and they're speaking. And we know, Dr. Miles, especially you, that the kids are not always in control of it. They don't always understand what's happening. So again, the topic, I think we're coming at it from a perspective that is different from what people thought we were going to be coming at it, because we're saying, not what do we do about their disrespect, but how did they get there?
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, let's talk about some ways they got there. They got there through, and we're not talking about every one of the children, because you're going to say, oh, guess what? This kid from a good family, he's just mad. Well, something happened. The children are disrespectful because they've been abused, and we're not talking about always sexual. We're talking about emotional abuse. The abuse is not so visible. Neglect and despair. Jackie, it is, I oftentimes look at how God has blessed me when I was raising children. And they would be able to go out to the skating ring. I know I had to give like $100 maybe a piece, or $50 a piece for them to have a good time. And I will often ask myself the question, what do children do who don't have parents who can't afford it? Are you with me? Because all children want to have that experience. They all want to go out and have fun.
That's where despair comes in.
And that's where despair comes in. And that's where the anger comes in. And that's where the disrespect. It's kind of interesting when kids tell their parents, why don't you go and get a job?
There's an idea. Right. And again, we often look at, and we know that there are a number of circumstances out there. So I want to make sure that we are not being viewed talking about circumstances beyond people's control. Okay. But we're talking about circumstances within your control. We're talking sometimes about not looking at the needs of your children while fully engaging in your own needs, that are not necessary and life sustaining. So
yeah, I keep talking about kids so angry, but the topic is disrespectful, but anger feeds the disrespect.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, that has a lot to do with it. And that I see in practice in schools every day, especially in middle school. They have to have an outlet. They're angry, and they may not be angry at what they're, reaching out at, but that anger is there. And I do find that most of the times they're not even aware that they're angry. This has become socially acceptable behavior. They certainly copy each other. They see one person do it, they go, hey, you know what? They got away with it. I can do it too. But it goes back to, why are any of them doing it? Why are children full of anger and despair?
I think also, not just that, but I think that sometimes kids are in their own space trying to figure stuff out. They're in their own space just trying to figure stuff out, and then trying to figure it out, they get angry. And then you ask them what's wrong with it, and they're disrespectful. But see, what I think you sort of like alluded to this as we started this thing. Our children oftentimes hold stuff because they'll say, I ain't gonna say it now because I hurt somebody's feelings.
Or I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get hit. I'm gonna get beat.
I prefer to say it now than to hold it and become explosive.
But Dr. Miles, that requires a family relationship and environment where the child feels safe doing that. And typically when that neglect is there, that feeling of safety is not there.
Can I share this with you? I just want to share this with our group also, that our kids need that sense of safety when they are dependent. When your children are 12 years old, they're finding their own way, and they see themselves as being independent socially from you. Are you with me? And so what happens, they began to have this anger at what they see other people doing or having, and then why we don't have it. And they
Right.
begin to compare. Jane's mother did A, B, and C. Why can't you do that? Jane's mother, Jane needs something. Jane's mother just go and get it right away. So, and so that's
And I get sent back to school over and over without it. And Dr. Miles, these aren't even extravagant things. They don't have to be new shoes. This can be pencils. We have kids who don't come to school with pencils. Teachers are going at them every day, and somebody's not stopping to say, "Hey, do you have pencils?" It could be something that small.
Yep. And we're talking about this. We're talking about the smaller children because our bigger kids, they ain't studying no pencil in the first place. They just trying to get there with that little iPad, whatever they got, and so they can look at their social media. But
Exactly.
this really bothers me, though. It bothers me
And I
that they're.
have to raise this point, Dr. Miles, because you and I are always trying to get at the root and make sure that people understand. And this is a pet peeve.
Mhm.
If you know someone who puts their cell phone in the hands of their 1-year-old to entertain them, I don't care if it's riding in the car to the child is a year old. You put a cell phone in front of them that's got all kind of things going. They're 2. You continue to do it. This child is now, and people don't realize how quickly that time goes by. That's why we have children who get to the age of 3, 4, and 5, and no one's ever actually talked to them because we're babysitting them with devices. Now we tell ourselves, I hear it every time, well, that's educational. To whom? You're showing a child a busy page. You think there's an R on there. Now that child can distinguish that R from everything else going on that page. I've seen a lot of these programs and I've had these conversations. Again, these are real situations. And parents do not understand that those things are not educational. They are literally developing ADHD because the children grow up on overstimulation. And it is difficult to back that down and change that after the age of 3.
I just think that all things in moderation. All things in moderation.
That is the point. All things in moderation.
Let me give you a few more of these why kids are so angry, and some of them are sort of we have to draw from them. Drugs, meaning that their parents are on drugs, and I have one situation where the kid had to raise his siblings because both mom and dad were on meth. He is now 16 years of age and just totally angry at the world because he had to give up his childhood. So drugs, with judges, children and courts don't have a voice. Everybody speaks for them.
And the fear and apprehension, that goes along with that. You're hesitating because in those situations you don't have, they may not call it attorneys, but they know that they can't afford to be represented or cared for. And that just the idea, we know that they see a lot through social media of wrongful arrest and things
Mhm.
going on. So again, our point is that as adults, we have to realize that they do have pain, right? Whether they're paying bills or not, they do have legitimate concerns, and that their world and their environment is toxic in so many ways. Dr. Miles, I think you said this earlier. A child can come from a great home. You can have 2 parents who are really kind of paying attention, right? Providing you with all of the necessities, clothing, shelter, and all of these things. But if you're not aware of the other influences and the other things affecting your child, again, there's so much out there.
Well, yeah, I'm sort of the belief that when it comes to parenting, effective love conquers all. Effective. And I say effective because some people have ineffective love for their children.
Mm-hmm.
The ineffective love that says, I give you everything you ask for,
Mm-hmm.
I make all your requests. I meet all of those. Well, that's to me
I will fulfill all your needs. That's
that
dangerous.
effective. We're talking about effective love that says, I'm here to provide safety for you, security. You can come and talk to me. I'm gonna stop whatever I'm doing. I'm gonna make you priority. So that sort of diffuses some of this pain that kids go through,
Okay.
and anger, and then
Yes.
respect.
And all of this goes back to our favorite word, intentional. Are you looking at your child every day? Are you noticing their expressions? Because I guarantee you they notice yours.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you know when your child is in a good mood or not? If you ask a question and they just say, yeah, I'm fine, do you accept it and move on to your own things? Are you paying attention?
But you know, with our children, yeah, as adults, we're so directive driven versus questioning. You know, how was your day? I know your day was bad. You know, get to your room. I'm saying we should ask our kids more questions, and not from an investigatory point of view, but like, how was your day? Like, what you do at school? How do you feel? Guess what? I know that teacher makes you angry. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
so
I know that's not your favorite teacher. How did it go today?
right now,
Right. And I
not
know this is your favorite subject. Listen, we expect you to just do your best, but we don't want you stressed out because math is not your thing.
not just I don't want to hear how your day was. What kind of grades you made? Would you get in trouble? Were you in the principal? Did you get an IS? I know you did. You're lying. You're lying. You know, I'm saying, hey,
Stressing me out just hearing it.
and this actually it goes on
And
because
imagine this,
because
this is the life of some children.
because parents are also stressed out and not sure what to do. Are you with me? They're stressed out and don't know
Absolutely.
what to do. So, but not about stressed out. It is about why are kids so disrespectful? But Jackie, that is sort of a topic that says they are versus, not also what can we do? I'm more interested in, I want to give them more empathy because to me, children who are disrespectful means something has happened to them that made them that way. Something happened to them. So
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
becomes accusatory, because I don't think there's any child I cannot approach. They may not like me, but guess what? I'm gonna give them love. And I'm gonna
And that raises the question again, Dr. Miles, are we willing to take ownership?
yeah.
Are we willing to take ownership for these disrespectful teens? Are we really willing to ask the tough questions of how they got there? And I mean
Guess
within
what?
our families.
I thought you were gonna say, are we willing to take responsibility for what we did to cause them to get there?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
All right,
That's what I
excellent.
mean by ownership. Are
Exactly.
we willing to even try to ask, what did I do for them to get there? Because here's another thing, Dr. Mouse.
Hmm.
We know this, and this goes to part of our sayings. Children do what you do, not what you say. So
Right.
don't tell me to be a disrespectful person, and I watch you go off on people all the time. Oftentimes, my teachers, perhaps another parent, a co-parent. I watch you read people all the time, but you think I'm going to go to school and all of a sudden be this highly respectful person.
Right. You,
Doesn't happen that way.
she gave us a name before, but I'm gonna say Scar. But she says a lot of times kids pick up disrespect from other kids and almost think of it as being cool. Let me share with you what that is.
I'll
What
take away the almost.
no, what the kids are what the kids are picking up is their way. Well, I'm talking about not the client, not the other kids' way, but they're trying to find their way.
Their way.
And also it's a sense of growing up. So
Right.
they're not realizing that the disrespect doesn't mean you're growing up. What it really means is that you are not growing up.
Right. And they don't. And again, if you're not watching your kids, I love her point because I agree with this. I see it in schools. Kids pick up this disrespectful behavior from other kids and they think of it as cool. They just watch this kid say something they would probably never say. And I've seen it happen. I've seen the quote unquote good kids all of a sudden. You notice the change in their behavior. They're just a little bit short with you. And then you see, they're looking at the other kids to see if they scored cool points. And I'm talking second and third grade here, that I've seen these sort of things. So I think that's a very good point. And again, without intentional parenting, and I love how Faithful Father put that, effective love is equals intention,
Hmm.
being intentional. So without being intentional, you have to know that every day that your child goes to school, they're exposed to others. What are
Yeah.
you doing to figure out how that exposure is affecting them?
The other thing about it is that, and it's not just your children, we can sense when other kids are frustrated and when other kids are disrespectful. And what we oftentimes do, we we meet the disrespect with disrespect.
Absolutely, because we grown and you can't
As
talk to me like that.
adults, we shouldn't do that. We have to show compassion. We have to show that we're approachable. You can say anything you want to say to me, because guess what? My personality and my characters and is set. So there's nothing you can do to offend me. But what I can say is, like, what's happening with you? This person says F you. Well, that's not really an appropriate thing to say. And the kid still doesn't want you to approach. Don't approach. But my point is, we shouldn't meet fire with fire. In other words, we should not meet this.
Absolutely. In other words, at what point should the adult be mimicking the student or the child? Think about that. When your child does something and you return it with the same behavior, you're actually following them. Yeah. They're setting the tone.
Well, what it says is that you're on the same level they're on, and we're not supposed to be.
And that's the main argument you're trying to make, that you're not, but you're demonstrating otherwise.
Right. Mm-hmm. So let's hear from some of our followers at this point. But we have a lot of comments tonight. Janae says, dealing with that now with my oldest teen. Mm-hmm. Janae, I want to tell you that it's according to, you said that it's a teen. If it's a male child, I'm going to share with you, don't be too overbearing with them. Don't be too overbearing, and don't be too directive with them, for lack of better words. Try to get understanding. And many parents feel that when they allow kids to be disrespectful, they've lost control. But that's not the truth. You really are in control.
Right. And you're demonstrating that by not losing control. Yeah. And sometimes you have to give them enough room to grow. I will say, as a parent, that is something else. That is one thing that I would change about my parenting. I would give them an opportunity to discover more things outside of me, without me being the person to tell them, because that also creates a dependency, that, they can come to you for everything, but that they have to seek to find answers also on their own.
All right. The point you said, I'm very nice, that's my issue, but it also means you're an enabler. So you can be very, but have boundaries.
Right.
Now, I didn't say be a pushover. I said approach it, with compassion. Compassionate people have boundaries, and they have rules. They have, they have standards.
Right.
So being nice doesn't mean you don't have standards.
Right. And so it means that while you're correcting and enforcing your standards, you're not doing that with anger or sarcasm or disrespecting that person. You're clearly establishing these are the boundaries, and this is where they're set, and I expect you to respect them.
And there are consequences when you violate them. You can do that very nicely. See, think about this here. You don't have to raise your voice and be fussing and be effective. Right.
And again, we know that typically if you're doing that, you're not being effective.
Exactly. And you've lost control.
You've lost control. So it's not, all of those things that you're mentioning. And again, great to have examples. I really appreciate when the audience, shares with us, because that's what we're trying to do. What is our audience experiencing, and how do we make, them more effective so that we can, do what we do, improve the lives of children.
But what's amazing about this is that many of our parents are not aware how to handle that disrespect. We respond to it right away because we're insulted. And you got to put your tough skin on when it comes to your children. And it's hard trust me, it's hard as parents. But don't let that stuff penetrate your soul, because you're still in charge.
Because I'm seeing what Janae again is writing. She's saying boundaries are still being abused. So, and I know Dr. Miles can definitely, provide more support for this and guidance probably offline. But there are strategies for managing that still don't require you to become angry or yell or scream.
Well, I charge offline, so I'm going to give it to her right now. The point is that if there are boundaries and they're still being abused, there are no boundaries.
But what do you do then is what I'm hearing her say, okay, they are still being abused. How do you enforce a boundary? Are we talking about removing a child from the home? Are we talking, what sort of consequences are we talking about them dealing with?
No, that's extreme. Remove the child from the home. No, that's really extreme. We're talking about, he has a lot of it's a female child. I would first say, how old is she? If she's a teen, guess what? She's going through stuff, especially female. She's going through a whole lot of emotions. She's going through menstrual cycle. She's going through boyfriends. She's going through trying to find herself. She's going through a whole bunch of stuff. So
identity issues, yeah.
Janae, I just want to share. I want to share this with her because I want her to make sure she gets this. Allow her to be herself. You don't have to always be there for correction. And sometimes not saying anything is saying a whole lot. That's how you handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there are many. The biggest thing is to make sure that you feel that you're in control and that you've not lost control. Because if you feel like you've lost control, you're losing the game. You're losing. All right?
And it's about having conversations about what, they are trying to accomplish when they are not respecting boundaries. I know, let's throw out some typical ones, Dr. Miles. Curfew. You're not respecting the curfew. You're supposed to be home at 12 and you want to come home at 2 a.m. What would you advise?
Well, that's not gonna happen in my house, because first of all, see, I keep saying the raising doesn't start at 18. So my question is, where did she get this from in the first place, where those boundaries were not already set up for her? Because they were already set up, she knows she cannot violate. So when children do that, they're not just being obstinate. They're not just saying, okay, I'm gonna break the rule for the hell of breaking the rule. They're doing it because they can get away with it. And guess what? And it's very simple. You want to stay here? You don't want to stay here.
Mm-hmm. Especially if we're talking about someone old enough to drive. I know one thing that would happen right away. Guess what? Keys gone.
Well, I just want to ask these questions. I want to make sure we're setting some age parameters, because I think we're all over the map with the ages and trying to get some interventions for those. If you're talking about small, of course.
I don't know if you saw the comment about the fact that she's driving.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, there's a comment on that this particular teen is driving, having guests at the home when mom is at work.
Well, you have some, again, that's a counseling session. You have some real issues there that has to be corrected right away. And they didn't just start, all right? And she's 16 years old. And I'm going to ask you, is she your daughter, or is she in foster care? I'm just asking, because I don't know. All right, let's keep it moving.
Right. But this is exactly, what these sessions are about, and parents and or foster care parents dealing with very real issues with teens.
Well, I want to use that example because that is really, that's a bit out there. Is that, guess what? Like you said, the car's taken away. I mean, the car's taken away. Then the other thing too is, you get cameras in your house. There are some rules about teenagers, and one is that when the child is ungovernable, that means that they can't stay in your house.
Mm-hmm. Certainly alone. And in terms of those visitors, I think I would find a way to let those visitors know that they will be considered trespassing if they're ever in your house again. So if your daughter is not following the rules, then perhaps you need to be speaking to the other parents involved in this and let them know no one is allowed in your house when you're not there.
But there's some other issues that are happening there, and I don't want to put all her business out here, but there are some other issues that she's having that's beyond the child being, and this is out of control, because she is now violating not only boundaries, but she's being disrespectful, and she's placing that family in harm's way.
Got you.
Right. All right. So let's go to the next one, because our time is wearing on. It's almost, we got a few more minutes, Jackie.
We need to cover some other things. We, as kids age 13 to 19 move from childhood to maturity, they often experiment with language to express their boundaries and talk back to parents in ways that are inappropriate. It then becomes the parent's duty to instruct their children how to speak with respect to authorities. Mm-hmm. Now, Dr. Miles, I have issue with this particular paragraph, because to say it then becomes the parent's duty at 13 to 19, really that duty was there at, again, younger ages.
Right.
Right. The media portrays disrespectful teenagers as being cool. And I think that's a reality. I agree with that. And therefore has contributed to this epidemic. I agree. But again, are they overexposed to media? Do they have unlimited access to this, toxic media? Okay.
And
Um,
there's only so much that parents can control. I just think at some point you can try to be so controlling and so preventive, whereas the child's not allowed to experience the consequences of life.
right. That's true. So at some point they've got to experience. And the tough part of that, parents, that we all go through is, does that mean getting arrested?
Mhm.
Does that mean that my door locks at a certain time, and if you're not here, you're going to find somewhere else to sleep and deal with whatever those consequences are? Does that mean you don't have a key to my house because you don't respect my home when I gave you access? Think about that. You wouldn't give anybody else a key to your house and allow them to disrespect it in that way. It
But
is sometimes, as Dr. Miles is saying, I think it's tough love,
it's not only just disrespect, it's dangerous.
dangerous.
So then when a child does that, they're endangering the rest of the family. Okay.
Good point.
Right.
And we were trying to cover some things parents should do. I do think this one is not done enough, Dr. Miles. Praise positive behavior,
Yes.
right? I think children, and again, I'm dealing with K-12, need any attention, seek any attention. And if they're not getting enough of the positive, the negative works just as well. But if we can make it positive, then they're going to do the things that get them more attention. Help your teenager practice problem-solving skills. Again, I think that's what Dr. Miles is alluding to. Give them some alternatives and some strategies, which sometimes come in the form of consequences. Discuss consequences. Do you want to sleep outside? No, then you need to be home at a certain time. I'm just throwing out some wild examples.
But part of it too is, one of that's coming up is allowing your children to earn privileges, to earn them. It's not a job, but guess what? For us, we go to work to earn money to take care of family situations. Children earn privileges, they have to work for it. So your school
and
is.
I want to add to that earning then means it is not instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
So don't say do one thing and you're going to get this. No, earning it means over a period of time and repeated service, delivery, whatever that may be. Not wash the dishes and I'll give you the keys to the car.
Right.
That's instant gratification. Okay. Think about rewards and consequences, part of what we were just saying. Actively think about them. Avoid giving away your power. Dr. Miles, you want to elaborate on that? Because I think that's very important.
The key is that oftentimes parents get into a one-on-one with their children. When you do that, you have given your power away to the client, I keep saying client, to the child. You give the power away because you're going one-on-one. Your power is, guess what? This is the end of conversation. When it's gotten there. Or I heard what you had to say. I don't have to, I respect what you say, but I don't have to agree with it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So in other words, shut it down. Don't keep going back and forth. And the most important thing is don't say you're gonna do something and then don't do it.
Very important, because you are training them at that point, and they will remember.
Your phone taken away for a week. Oh, she looks so sad after the first day. I'm giving her phone back.
It happens all the time.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Stick with it.
Utilize assertive and effective communication in mild situations. Maintain humor and show empathy. I think the emphasis there is in mild situations. Obviously, it's not something you do in severe and serious situations.
Right.
I think this next one is very, very important. Give them a chance to help solve problems if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Give them a chance.
It's kind of interesting. We talk about have the kid earn their way, and this can even work for teenagers. It's that behavior chart, folks. You get 4 stars, you get to use the car. You get 4 stars, you get to go to the game room. You get 4 stars. You know, so the point is that it's not just also rewarding them, it's making them be responsible and aware of their behaviors, And you're not having to do so much talking.
Right.
Are you with
And
me?
again, at that point, they're also being very intentional about their behaviors, and they will figure out how to get it done when they seek the rewards and want to avoid the consequences.
You know, our time is about, well, we got a few more minutes. I just say, to me, this is not such a hard thing to do to me, Jackie, especially, you know, I keep saying, if you have children and you love your children, it's not hard to love your children. And it's not hard to realize that they are human beings just like you are, and that if they are disrespectful, that means something is wrong.
But Dr. Miles, I will say as a parent, I do think that it can be hard to know how to effectively love your children. You love your children. It's not hard to love them, but knowing how to effectively love your children is important. And I think, again, the basis and the reason for so many of our conversations, because there are things that, you know, like they said, there's no manual, and there's so many things that parents are dealing with.
Well, you kind of like open a can of worms, because the effective love is going to vary according to situations, and it's about this. Yeah, it's about you as
Absolutely.
a parent. It's about you as a parent defining what your child needs. You define what they need. Some of them may need just encouragement or touch. Some may need you to wink at them. Some may need you to say good morning. So their interpretation of your feelings for them is going to vary from household to household. But the key is do something.
Got you. And for the parent to be intentional on their objectives. What
Right.
are you trying to accomplish, right, in this child?
Well, our time is up. Our time is up. It went by so fast. And I really hope that you all got something out of why are our kids so disrespectful? Because they're angry and they're in pain. And when you're angry and in pain, all you need is someone to care. Jack, I want to do one definition before we go, and that is the difference between anger and rage. Anger helps us. Anger motivates us, and it's okay for us to be angry. The problem is that we don't know the difference between anger and rage. Rage is self-destructive. It destroys things and people. So rage is, I throw things at you. Rage is, you know, I hit you. So anger is okay because it helps develop us.
And I do think that's a very important point.
And rage is something else. Hey, folks, it's done. It's over. So you all have the rest of the night to have a great, great, great Tuesday. Jackie, I'll see you on next week, Tuesday, on another.
I'll be here.
Let's talk about it. All right. Hey, good night, folks.
Good night. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your feedback and comments.